Trump repeatedly and deliberately undermined COVID-19 response, says report. U.S. Muslims 5 times more likely to face police harassment due to their religion. Indian politician boasts on camera about getting Muslims killed. 6th charity train sets off for Afghanistan from Ankara. The United Nations says Horn of Africa faces child deaths in devastating numbers from malnutrition and disease. The film The Balance depicts rapid rise of billion-dollar Islamic entertainment industry. From Washington, D.C., this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Hena Zuberi. Our top story tonight. A new report by the U.S. House of Representatives says former President Donald Trump deliberately and repeatedly undermined the country's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It said senior Trump administration officials undermined public health experts because they believed doing so would benefit the former president politically. The report was published by the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Crisis on Wednesday. The document also revealed that the White House pressured the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to authorize unproven and potentially dangerous COVID-19 treatments. The COVID-19 pandemic has now killed more than 1 million people in the United States. U.S. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell called President Joe Biden's plan to cancel some student debt a slap in the face. McConnell warned that by canceling $10,000 in student debt for borrowers, the White House is taking money and purchasing power away from working families and redistributing it to their favored friends. But government watchdog Public Citizen called McConnell out for his complaint. The group tweeted that he should refrain from commentary due to his push for the $1.9 trillion in tax cuts 5 years ago. Public Citizen says these disproportionately benefited corporations and the wealthiest Americans, not working families. On Tuesday, a black man convicted of murdering a police officer in Ashtabula, Ohio, 25 years ago, had his death sentence revoked. Raw Story reports that a 3-judge panel at the United States Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit determined that Audrey Jones deserved a new sentencing. That is because the initial one had been improperly influenced by a clinical psychologist who testified that black men were inherently more likely to commit violence. In the decision, Judge Richard Allen Griffin argued that the original sentencing hearing was marred by racialized testimony. He also said that Jones's counsel during sentencing did an inadequate job of challenging this racist testimony. Griffin added that there is a reasonable probability that Jones would have received a lesser sentence if such testimony had not been introduced. The CIA was unable to find evidence supporting Israel's move to designate 6 Palestinian human rights groups as terrorist organizations. The Guardian reported the news on Monday, citing 2 sources familiar with a study undertaken by the agency. In October, Israel labeled Adamir al-Haq, the Bisan Center for Research and Development, Defense for Children International Palestine, the Union of Agricultural Work Committees, and the Union of Palestinian Women Committees as terrorist groups. All 6 deny the allegations. 3 of them have challenged the designation in Israel's courts. Last week, Israel raided the offices of all 6 of the organizations. The Biden administration has not publicly rebuked its main ally in the Middle East for its decision. However, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has left the Palestinian groups off of White House's list of foreign terrorist organizations. Omar Shakir is the Israel and Palestine Director of Human Rights Watch. He told The Guardian the United States has for too long turned a blind eye and in some cases even green-lighted quite serious Israeli government abuses. The U.S. gives Israel over $3 billion annually, which is more than to any other country. American Muslims are 5 times more likely to experience police harassment because of their religion compared to those of other faiths, a study by Rice University shows. It was published in the Society for the Study of Social Problems. The study notes that the overall rate amongst U.S. adults was estimated at 3.8%. So Muslim individuals are about 5 times as likely to say that they have been harassed by the police due to their religion. However, there were variations even amongst Muslims. The study found that over 23% of Black Muslims experience religion-based police harassment. That percentage increased to nearly 40% among Muslim adults identifying their race or ethnicity as Middle Eastern or North African. Almost no Muslim adults who identify as white reported experiencing harassment by law officials due to their religion. On Wednesday, 4 people, including the suspected shooter and an accomplice, were arrested in France for the murder of an Afghan man. Abdul Qayyum Ahmadzai, a refugee living in the country since 2017, was shot dead in the northeastern city of Colmar on August the 14th. This was after confronting a biker doing stunts on a street. Known locally as urban rodeos, the growing popularity of these high-speed stunt performances has prompted a crackdown in France in recent days. Ahmadzai worked at a car factory in Melus, while his wife and 4 children were in Afghanistan. Indian politician boasts on camera about getting Muslims killed. More details after the break. Stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
I am what hunger looks like in America.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Assalamu alaikum! Open up your eyes.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever-popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
It's Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. A video of Gayan Dev Ahuja, a former legislator belonging to the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party, has gone viral in India. He was caught on camera boasting about getting at least 5 people killed in the western Indian state of Rajasthan. All of them were Muslim. In the video, Ahuja says, "We've killed 5 of them so far," and admits to giving a free hand to workers, telling them to kill those behind cow slaughter. He added, "We will get you acquitted. We will get you out of bail too," purportedly referring to the mob lynchings and killings related to alleged cow slaughter in his area. Indian news website The Quint on Monday reported that at least 3 such deaths happened in the city of Alwar in 2017 and 2018. This was over allegations of slaughtering cows, which Hindus consider holy. Earlier this year, the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom designated India a country of particular concern for the 3rd year in a row in its annual report. It said that in 2021, the Indian government escalated its promotion and enforcement of a Hindu nationalist agenda that negatively affects Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Dalits, and other religious minorities. On Wednesday, 3 special charity trains left for Afghanistan from Turkey's capital city Ankara with about 1,500 tons of aid in tow. The 6th charity train voyage is on its way to Afghanistan, the Turkish Disaster and Emergency Management Authority, or AFAD, announced on Tuesday. 10 humanitarian groups from Turkey came together to organize the effort. This was preceded by 5 similar initiatives to assist the people of the food-strapped country in need of emergency aid. When the 6th voyage arrives in Afghanistan, a total of 1.25 million Afghans will have received aid carried by the trains, 17 in total, AFAD added. According to the UN Humanitarian Coordination Office, half of Afghanistan's population now faces acute hunger. Children are out of school, and over 9 million people have been uprooted. A controversial cartoon published in New Brunswick's largest French-language newspaper is prompting pushback over how it portrays Muslims. The cartoon, published in the August 17th edition of La Cade Nouvelle, shows a caveman dragging a woman by her hair. Below is an illustration of a man wearing a turban and carrying a gun, using a leash to drag a woman wearing a burqa. Evolution is written above the cartoon. The National Council of Canadian Muslims issued a statement calling the cartoon Islamophobic and said it spreads stereotypes that fuel widespread hatred. On Wednesday, marking the 5th anniversary of Rohingya genocide in Burma, the UK decided to intervene in the Gambia versus Myanmar case at the International Court of Justice. The case of Gambia versus Myanmar is being heard before the International Court of Justice in The Hague. The case will determine whether Burma, also known as Myanmar, has violated its obligations under the Genocide Convention. This is in relation to the military's acts against the Rohingya in 2016 and 2017. Britain also announced another round of sanctions on the Burmese military. On Tuesday, the UN Children Agency, or UNICEF, warned that the children in the Horn of Africa and the Sahel could die in devastating numbers. This is due to severe malnutrition and risk of waterborne disease. UNICEF Executive Director Catherine Russell appealed for urgent support as Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia grappled with severe drought. The number of people dealing with drought in the Horn of Africa has risen from 9.5 million to 16.2 million since February. It has put children and families in increased danger of diseases like cholera and diarrhea, she said. Millions of children are just one disease away from catastrophe, added Russell. Filmmaker Abrar Hussain, best known for producing One Day in the Haram and One Night in Al-Aqsa, is breaking barriers with his latest film. The Balance delves into the untold story behind the rise and success of the billion-dollar Islamic entertainment industry. The film tracks the historical evolution of Islamic entertainment, tracing its influences throughout society. From politics to pop culture, from comedy to music, the film assesses the impact of these developments on Islam. The story is told through the eyes of some of the most prominent Muslim figures, including outlandish Imam Omar Suleiman, Brother Ali, and Maria Idrisi. The film highlights the key historical moments in the development of the scene, placing Ahmed Deedat, Muhammad Ali, and the 1976 film The Message center stage. Hussein told Arab News that this selection was influenced in part by the extensive research he did, but more importantly, by his personal experiences. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
I am what hunger looks like in America.
I am an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for the last day of school. Because this may be the last time I'll have lunch. Till September.
I am a single father of 2 who works 3 part-time jobs,
and that's still not enough to put food on the table.
I was created by artificial intelligence from faces of the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger.
Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
They took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
Welcome back. On August 25th, Rohingya refugees mark Genocide Remembrance Day. To discuss this in detail, let's go to Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid. Over to you, Imam Mujahid.
Thank you, Hena. I remember walking in mud as Rohingya refugees who are coming in from Burma. That was 2017. 5 years today, they're still there. In the same situation, more or less like a detention type situation. Nobody can get into the camp without a permit, which is not easy. Nobody can get out, which is almost impossible. Barbed wire all around it. Food given, they cannot work, no refugee status, and they cannot go to school. 500,000 children sitting there. They cannot go and study beyond a third grade. We have someone who has known Rohingyas and have worked on these causes for a long period of time, Phil Robertson. Welcome to Muslim Network TV.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Phil is Deputy Director of Human Rights Watch Asia Division based in Bangkok, Thailand. So Bangladeshis and Rohingyas, Phil, both agree that they want to go back. So what is the hurdle?
Well, the hurdles are primarily the Myanmar government and particularly the Myanmar security forces, the Tatmadaw and the police, who refuse to provide any sort of guarantees that people who return will be able to return safely, that they will not face retaliation, that they will get their land back, that they will get citizenship, that will have freedom of movement and other necessary things for the Rohingya people to live freely in Myanmar, particularly in Rakhine State. Quite clearly, the government of Myanmar, which is now controlled by a military junta, really has no interest in having the Rohingya return. And they have been playing for time. They've been playing games, using these process issues to sort of delay the day that the Rohingya would be able to go back to Myanmar.
So you for sure think that situation is Burma right now. Not only they are playing game, but their regime in power may not give them citizenship or their land back. I mean, the land, probably there are jungles there, or they are using it for some other purposes.
Well, certainly we found instances where land taken from the Rohingya after the 2017 events, which saw more than 400 Rohingya villages burned down. Some of this land has been taken and crops were confiscated. These are things that certainly happened. Everybody's been able to document that. The problem is that there doesn't appear to be any political commitment within the current regime in Myanmar to allow for voluntary, safe, and dignified return of Rohingya refugees. There needs to be rights-respecting rule in Myanmar. There has to be justice for the crimes that were committed against the Rohingya. There needs to be, frankly, a democratic civilian rule in Myanmar. And none of that is immediately around the corner. We, in fact, see that the situation is getting much worse in Myanmar. Just overnight, we learned that the former British ambassador, Vicky Bowman, who is a longtime resident of Myanmar, was arrested for immigration charges. So it's quite clear that the Myanmar military junta has no real interest in appeasing the international community or really listening to the protestations of the UN member states about what has happened to the Rohingya. It appears that Myanmar is just denying everything and pushing back to prevent any sort of justice for the Rohingya people.
United States, when it comes to Darfur, took a stronger stand and was more active. Do you think the world community has serious interest in stopping genocide in Burma?
Well, we think that there needs to be a lot more done. It was good news to see that the British government has now said that they are going to join the case at the International Court of Justice against Myanmar for the crime of genocide. That means that they're joining Canada and the Netherlands, who have already publicly declared their intention to support the proceedings. This is something that we pressured the UK government to do for more than 3 years before they finally agreed. But there needs to be a lot more done. The International Court of Justice case is moving forward, but it's moving very slowly. That is the nature of the situation at the International Court of Justice. They will take necessarily years on this case before there's a final decision. But there needs to be more done in other areas. I mean, we need the UN Security Council to speak up. We need action against the Myanmar military junta. We need sanctions that target the military junta and their interests in the business world. And we also need to see international arms embargo against the Myanmar military junta so that they're not able to secure the kind of weapons that they're using against the Myanmar people, including the Rohingya.
Are these using weapons which are not manufactured in China? China is friend and in the corner. They're not going to listen to what anybody is saying. They're doing things to Uyghur people right there. So are they dependent on West or anywhere else for their arms?
Well, Myanmar military produces some of its own small arms, but certainly bigger weapon systems are coming from China. They're coming particularly from Russia, where we have Vladimir Putin. His government is very close to the Myanmar military junta and has publicly supported them and sold weapons to them, including aircraft and helicopters, which are being used to bomb and strafe civilian settlements. We also have the problem of India, which has continued to provide arms to the Myanmar military junta. The big problem is, we have these big countries, China and Russia, who are supporting the junta. But then we also have some regional neighbors, India, and also I would say Thailand, which has unfortunately been very, very reticent to join a wider coalition to pressure the Myanmar military junta, and appears to be trying to cut separate deals with the junta to protect Thai interests in Myanmar as well as along the Thai-Myanmar border.
I took a delegation of interfaith with Burma Task Force to Bangladesh. And when we were in their foreign office, their Secretary General of the Foreign Affairs Department, along with there was, their ambassador to Burma and other officers sitting. He very clearly said, I don't believe Rohingyas will ever go back.
Well, I'm concerned about that.
Yeah. So he said in front of all of those people, I say, are you sure? I say, yeah, that's my assessment. It will never happen. So if that is the situation, why these people cannot be given refugee status?
Well, I don't think we should accept that that will never happen. I think what needs to occur is that there has to be a transition to a civilian government in Myanmar. I do think that the pressure has to be placed on the Myanmar military junta to take these people back and guarantee their rights and give them back their properties, give them back their land, and give them their citizenship. We have to get rid of the Citizenship Act of 1982. But you put your finger on a major issue as far as Bangladesh is concerned, which is that Bangladesh is afraid of exactly what you're saying, that the Rohingya will never return. And so Bangladesh is unfortunately viewing almost everything through that single prism, through that single point of focus, which is how do we get the Rohingya to leave Bangladesh? And what we've seen as a result of this is a policy that is punitive towards the Rohingya children, which denies education to Rohingya children, which has shut down Rohingya schools. These are the kind of things that, the Bangladesh government claims that if we allow these children to have their own schools, be taught by their own communities, that somehow this means that the Rohingya children will want to stay and their parents will want to stay in Bangladesh. And that's simply not the case. But the single-minded focus of Bangladesh in trying to get the Rohingya to leave means that Bangladesh is increasingly pursuing a strategy to try to make the Rohingya people miserable in the camps, to intimidate them, to say, well, if you don't do certain things, we'll send you to Basan Char, where we have now more than 28,000 Rohingya have been moved, and they face severe movement restrictions and food and medicine shortages and abuses by security forces. This is similar also to, the kind of things that abuses that we're increasingly seeing in places in the camps in Bangladesh, where, officials have closed community-led schools. They've arbitrarily destroyed shops. They've imposed all sorts of restrictions on travel. They're building a fence around these camps to prevent people from going in and out. So Bangladesh is pursuing a very destructive policy born of that fear that if they don't be hard on the Rohingya, if they don't treat the Rohingya badly, then the Rohingya will want to stay in Bangladesh. And that's simply not the case. Every single poll, every single survey of public opinion amongst the Rohingya all indicate that they want to go back to Myanmar. They want to go back home.
Yeah, whoever I spoke to extensively, one of the things very clear is that they want to go back. I mean, they were living in a better situation in Burma than the camps in Bangladesh, and probably that's what Bangladesh continuously wants to remind them. But Phil, tell me a little more about education. I mean, don't you think 500,000 children sitting, studying, not going to school, doing nothing essentially, is itself bad for Bangladesh even?
Well, I think it's bad for Bangladesh. I think it's bad for Myanmar, and I think it's bad for the Rohingya children. I mean, you have, so many of these community-led schools which have been shut down at a time when there is very little education to be offered already. I mean, there has been some emergency curriculums that have been allowed to be implemented, but they're only allowed to be implemented for children between 4 and 14 years old. Now we're finally seeing the Myanmar language pilot program being rolled out by UNICEF, which is targeting children in the grades 6 to 9. But there's no reason why they can't allow older children to also study. And there's no reason why they can't allow children to pursue, tertiary education as well. This is, sort of these arbitrary restrictions on education seem to be all about trying to demoralize the Rohingya community and the Rohingya people, because the Bangladesh authorities know that the Rohingya so highly value education. And by depriving children of education, they are creating a lost generation of Rohingya youth, which are going to cause problems. And frankly, it's going to be a burden on the community and the families that, these children, when they grow up, will not have the knowledge or skills that they need to be the next generation of leaders of the Rohingya community.
Yeah, first Burma denied them education, and now Bangladesh is denying them the education. Could there be a significant pressure from the world donors to ensure that Bangladesh allows them to study?
Well, there should be. This is really very important. I mean, the diplomats based at the embassies in Dhaka and the UN agencies and the UN headquarters should be pressing very hard on this. But what we're seeing is a diminishing amount of interest from the wider international community. So, for instance, the 2022 Joint Response Plan for the Rohingya humanitarian crisis, the UN requested $881 million for the year 2022. And so far, they've only received about 25% of that. So, donors are increasingly losing interest in going somewhere else and leaving the Rohingya to their own devices. And, I think in some cases, Bangladesh is seeing that as well. Bangladesh is worried that they're going to end up being responsible for everything. And this is why, Bangladesh is becoming increasingly desperate to try to pressure the Rohingya to return to Rakhine State, even if the conditions may not be fully appropriate for them to return at this time.
Well, thank you so much, Phil, for your time. Truly appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Back to you, Hena.
Thank you so much, Imam Mujahid. It's been 5 years since the exodus of the Rohingya to Bangladesh. That's all from our Washington studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.